Yeah, so today we are going to have some fun and talk about some of the greatest old school powerlifters to walk the face of the earth. Marty has coached, trained with, and interacted with most of these men, so he is full of stories. So let's go ahead and just start right from the beginning, Marty, with Hugh Cassidy. He was really like the kind of, I guess, your first mentor when it came to the world of powerlifting, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Cassidy was the first super heavyweight world champion. I met him early on as a teenage lifter, and actually, in fact, I just finished an article on this. Early occasion, I went to his house with a fellow named Glenn Middleton and another fellow named Artishawn Bagapore. It was the first time we'd
Hmm.
ever seen a Smith machine. Right, Hugh had just purchased a Smith machine, and it was like it was incredible. It was like the most amazing device any of us had ever seen. And yeah, it was. I didn't officially start training with him until my mid 20s,
Uh-huh.
and yes, I was with Hugh for 5 years. Um, we would go to his basement gym on High Bridge Road in Bowie, Maryland.
Mm.
And it'd be myself and Marshall Peck and Joe Ferry, very elite lifters. Dan Pinkston, there'd be a rotating cast. Mark Dimmoduck, world champion, came out of that basement. Um, and it was just a cramped, dank basement.
And the ceilings were too short that you couldn't even overhead press, right?
Yeah, 9 foot ceilings. No, yeah, I guess 8 foot ceilings, 8 foot ceiling. You couldn't press overhead, and it was in the basement of a country home. Hugh had a really beautiful little farmette in Bowie. Hugh was he was a Renaissance man before I knew what a Renaissance man was. In addition to being a world champion athlete, which he did very scientifically. He basically morphed himself from 200-pound average guy into a 300-pound superhuman. And then he retired. He retired just as quickly and reverted back to, actually, he became a bodybuilder, a 200-pound bodybuilder after that. But Cassidy, in addition to being a national world champion powerlifter, he was a fantastic bass player, a good guitar player. He was a botanist. He would do things like he would graft pear branches on apple trees, to, logging it all, and he was a metal sculpture. He was a welder. He was an expert welder, became a metal sculpturalist, and he became one of America's best metal sculpturalists. He was, his trade name is Truman Fitzhugh.
So he was an artist, huh? Along with a powerlifter.
Yeah, that was his nom de plume. That's what he would sign these
Yeah.
incredible art pieces with. And he phenomenal, and his pieces were his metal sculptures were incredible, unbelievable. My only regret is that I didn't get one. I should have gotten one. There were, at his best, there were nightmarish creatures. It was like almost like from an H.P. Lovelace novel or something. That was the visions that he brought to life in these three-dimensional works of art. It was beautiful, but at the same time, it was bizarre and a little,
It's like gothic, if you will.
yeah, like little nightmare creatures, that looked a little too real to me.
Huh.
So, in addition to that, he was a great writer. He launched my writing career. The first articles I ever wrote were in 1978 with him, when he co-wrote, I think we did 3 articles or 4 articles together for Powerlifting USA. And that was the start of my writing career. And of course, I've been a full-time professional writer for 1988. So, I've been doing this a lot of years since. And so, we mentored under Hugh and Hugh's methods, which were they were the most demanding I've ever subjected myself to before or since.
Yeah, they were brutal, right? Because you would work up to
Yeah.
like a top set, let's just say squats, and then you would do like 5 by 5 back off pause squats, right? I believe that's what he did.
No, it wouldn't be that. It would be like 2 to 3 sets of, and I'll walk you through it. Classically, we would always work within a periodized framework. So we would always go into a session with a predetermined target weight for our top set in the squat, the bench press, the deadlift.
Mm,
Right. So depending on where you were in the cycle, were you 8 weeks out from a competition and you train different than if you were 3 weeks out from a competition, and you train different than if you're 14 weeks out from a competition. Regardless of how far out you are, you have a predetermined goal weight. So let's say you're 8 weeks out and you're working through 5 rep sets, your 5 rep top sets. So you would work up to 5 reps top set. We would probably wear, if we were in heavy competitive mode, we'd probably wear belt and knee wraps to work up to the 5 rep top set. Okay.
hmm
And again, with the guys that I was training with, that might be, I don't know, 650 for 5, right?
Yeah.
Then you take off the belt and the wraps, you take 2 45s off, and you don't rush this because you're working with 4 or 5 guys
hmm
rotating through, right? Round robin. We round robin when we train. You step up to train, and 4 other guys spot you and concentrate on you and exhort you, and then you in turn spot and exhort them, right?
Do the same for them. Yeah.
Correct. So that's the way. And we found that about if you go past 5 guys, it slows it down a little too much. Everybody gets a little cold. So about 5 guys we can rotate in, warm up set, and we want everybody to be approximately the same strength level. We can't, you know what I mean? This is if you're training with elite guys, you want to have elite guys. You can't be breaking the bar down to 135.
He can't be taking 5 pairs of 45s off every time someone needs to do their set. Yeah, it just gets
Exactly.
ridiculous.
So if you're working up to a top set of 5, let's say with whatever 595 for 5, with your belt and wraps, you'd probably knock down to and that would be, let's say, 600 for 5. You'd probably knock down to 500, but you take all your stuff off
hmm
and you do 8, right? But so Hugh called those just back off sets. So you would work up to a set of 5 with your belt and your wraps, and then you back off and do 2 sets of 8 with 500 or 505, whatever the poundage was. But those would be slower and more precise, and more, I don't know, continuous tension.
hmm
Whereas the 5, you're exploding it and killing it, and that's the one that everybody's getting psyched for. The back off sets you're taking is almost
Dessert.
more casually. You purposely don't. You're not exerting psych on the back off sets because you shouldn't have to.
hmm
Right. You reserve your psych for the top set. Plus, after you do this, you have to do the same strategy in the bench press immediately. We go to bench press, and if you would work up to a top set of 5, depending on how far out you were, it would be either a 5 rep set paused or a 5 rep set touch and go. Right. The further out it would be touch and go, the closer pause.
Yeah.
Then you would drop. You drop weight again and do well, let's say maybe you're doing pause sets of 5 reps. You'd probably do 2 sets of 8 touch and go for your back offs, right?
Yeah. So that was his big thing. He would work back with higher reps for his back off.
Yes, and lighter and more concentrated. You're almost more of a bodybuilding approach on the back offs. You're not on the top set. You're expected to exert some berserker psych. You're expected to really get outside your personality.
You're amping yourself up and really preparing yourself for that weight.
Correct. And on the back off sets, it's supposed to be like, no, this is just going to the office or brushing your teeth.
You're not maximal.
Well, no. And if you just finished doing 600 for 5, come on, man, you can't handle 500 for 8 for 2 sets, please. Right. So on we go. So then you would bench, right? And so they were same strategy. You work up to a 5 rep set, maybe pause, 2 sets of 8, touch and go. Now it's time to deadlift. So again, you're going to work up to a 5 rep set. And again, there was no dropping of deadlifts at Cassidy's because the family lived upstairs and you're not going to drop weight and disturb them. That would be rude and it would be disrespectful, right? So it was never done. Well, turned out to be a fantastic benefit to us because it forced us to embrace the deadlift negative. Everyone in today's world throws the deadlift negative away.
They either want to drop it at the very top to
Yeah,
draw attention to themselves, or they don't actually let go of the bar. They just kind of do a controlled
yeah,
drop
yeah,
with
yeah,
their hands still on the bar.
yeah. And again, that's why not take advantage of the muscle building, strength infusing attributes of a precisely controlled negative. We do that in the squat. We do it in the bench press. Why do we throw it away in the deadlift? And if you look at the guys that practice that, they have incredible backs because of it. So anyway, we don't want to spend the whole program in. Hugh, let me work through real quick. So after the dad, you do your back offs. Hugh liked to stiff leg deadlift. I didn't, but he would do. Now we never did high rep sets of deadlift, so he would maybe do 2 sets of 5 in the stiff leg deadlift, or a deadlift off a plate, like off 100. You stand on a 100-pound plate, which puts you at a disadvantage, makes the start harder.
There's a deficit deadlift, yeah.
So you might do that. Might be your 2 sets of 5 in the back off in the deadlift. Okay. Now you're not done. You still have to do some overhead pressing. Maybe 3 to 4 sets. You want to work up to a good set of 5. You're not going to be that strong in the overhead press because you benched.
Yeah.
So, but in the presses, we had to sit down because the ceiling was low. So it was dumbbell work, mainly dumbbell work. And that was an advantage too. We got good at seated dumbbell pressing. Then after dumbbell pressing, we would usually do arms. Well, we'd always do arms. We'd do some sort of bicep and usually dips or push downs for triceps, and we'd superset arms, right? Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, maybe 3 to 4 sets. Well, by the time and often Cassidy would have like a special exercise, like you might throw in, we had something called heaves that we did for a while, which is like halfway between a deadlift and a power clean.
It's like almost like a high pull.
Yeah, with a little less explosiveness, a little more deadlifty than power cleaning. Right. Yeah. So, and he had us do, and those were murder after we just finished squatting and finished deadlifting and finished stiff legging, and now we're going to do 2 to 3 sets of heaves. Yeah, it was rough. It was rough, and it would take 2 to 3 hours, and I mean, walking up the steps was a struggle.
Oh, I'm sure.
And
you did that twice a week?
Yeah, we did that. Yeah, we do that. One weekend day could be Saturday or Sunday, and then one more day during the week, usually at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So, and when we would finish that, we would be so blasted that we would stand outside next to lean up against our cars and shit a little bit and drink milk, like quarts of milk, just to stop the shaking before we drove home, because it was traumatizing.
Oh, it sounds like it. That's a brutal marathon session.
Yeah, and then most of the guys would head straight to a buffet, right? And they'd stuff themselves with as much power food as they could. I mean, decimate the chicken, decimate the pork, decimate the beef. And then go home and take a nap because and that was the magical growth combination. You traumatize the body, you feed the body, you rest the body, right? And that was the lesson I learned at Hugh. Well, that was the only way you could cope.
Yeah.
If you didn't
focus on eating and getting good sleep, you're not going to survive that training session for very long.
Because we were expected to improve in every session. Now, it was tiny improvements, 5 pounds, 10 pounds, but there was an improvement expected twice a week. So it wasn't like we were just still going through the motions. It was like every week. And in order to manage that, we manipulated our body weight upward. Okay, that was part of the strategy. You got bigger. Each week you made yourself bigger in order to cope with the increased pounding. And the more you
Mhm.
grew, the stronger you got, the more you could lift, the stronger, round
Yeah.
and round it goes. And you get in this pocket. And it's a wonderful thing where you get 6 to 7 weeks in. And if you're true to this thing, well, you have to be, or you get kicked out of the club. Or I mean,
Yeah.
you don't, if you're half-assing it at Cassidy's, no. It's just like you're just taking up space.
Yeah,
Leave.
he's not putting up with that.
Yeah, we got other guys that would love to rotate in, right? So no, there was none of that. In fact, we never had a problem with that.
Yeah.
Anybody there was there to bust their ass.
Yeah, wasn't Hugh known for, like, pounding down a, packet of Oreos after a
No,
training
no,
session
that was a
too?
different guy. That was George Hector. That was another.
Oh, that was Hector.
Yeah, no. Hugh pushed his body weight up to 300 pounds, again with forced eating, almost like a sumo wrestler. Cassidy was famous for back in he was a school teacher, and he would carry around a picnic cooler, a family-sized picnic cooler, and every day he'd take it to work with him. It was stuffed with half gallons of milk and sandwiches and pieces of pie and fruit, and he'd just eat and eat and eat all day long. And he pushed his body weight up from 200 to 300 to win the
Hmm.
super heavyweight world championship.
How tall was he?
My height, he's a little bit, maybe a bit. He was 5'11".
Yeah.
I'm 5'10".
Yeah, I mean I mean, you have to eat to survive that training.
Well, and when he accomplished his mission, he reduced and went back to normalcy. It wasn't a lifestyle.
You do that to win competitions. It's not
Yeah,
really it's not necessarily healthy to live that way for a long period of time.
no,
Yeah.
no one suggests that. But
Yeah.
what it does do is it blasts muscle size upward. Then the smart figure out ways to hang on to this increased muscle size while reducing the body fat, right? But that's a
Mhm.
different program.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was my tenure, my apprenticeship with Cassidy.